What's going on? Welcome back to the Build Bodies podcast. I'm your host, Alan Jaramillo, and this is the podcast where we talk about how to make fitness a lifestyle instead of a crash course so that you can officially build your body. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the 5 things I wish I knew about macros before I started tracking them. So if you're not familiar about how to succeed with your diet, you find yourself always falling on and off of the same, dieting hamster wheel, and you were struggling with trying to make better choices in social situations, going out to eat, drinking, including alcohol into your diet, and you're one of those people who just doesn't want to live in a box and say no to everything, this is the episode for you, okay? Now, what we're going to be talking about today is macros. So I do want to give a quick lesson on what they are and why you're going to be tracking those instead of total calories. So macros are proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, okay? They make up the total calories. So if you go to the peanut butter jar inside of your pantry right now and you look at the food label, you're going to see that it says whatever calorie goal, 190 calories, 200 calories, depending on what peanut butter brand it is. And you're going to see a breakdown of those calories. You're going to see 16 grams of fat, 8 grams of protein, and you might see 8 grams of carbs or something like that. And when you add those up, that's what adds up to the total calorie number, okay? So every macro has a calorie number, okay? And the reason why fattier things are very high in calories is because it's 9 grams per calorie for fats than it is for protein and carbs, which is only 4 grams per calories. And that's very important to know before we move forward. Now, the best way, in my personal opinion, to think about tracking macros is to use the bank account analogy, okay? Think of it as you have 3 separate bank accounts. You have your protein bank account, your carbohydrate bank account, and you have your fat bank account, okay? Now, as you eat food throughout the day, you are losing money or value from each individual bank account, okay? So let's say that my current macros are 200 grams of protein, 250 grams of carbohydrates, and 60 grams of fat. Every time I consume food, I'm subtracting from those numbers until I end up at 0, okay? Now, the reason why this works very well instead of tracking total calories is because ultimately, this is the most accurate way to track your food. And the reason why is because a lot of food labels have a little bit of misleading calorie numbers on there. And the reason why they're allowed to do that is because they're allowed up to a 20% margin of error, sometimes even greater, I've found, than the macros that add up to the correct calories, okay? And you can try and test this theory by adding up the math on a lot of candy bars and stuff like that, okay? It's very, very common. Now, the first thing that I wish I knew before tracking macros is that it's the ultimate eating out hack, okay? And I have a little bit of a story. When I was in my bodybuilding prep several years ago, I had to travel across the country when the pandemic hit, okay? And I didn't have a kitchen. I didn't have hotel rooms that I was really living out of, except for after the first day of traveling. So I had to make do with what I had with fast food options on the road. And I was actually able to fit in Chick-fil-A into my total macros for the day, and I was still able to see results. And the reason why this is actually just such an awesome hack is that I was still able to continue to lose weight while traveling and eating on the road, okay? All I had to do was know the tricks of the trade on how to fit these foods into my macros. And that's why it's the ultimate eating out hack, okay? When you go to a restaurant, when you go to a fast food chain, you are able to have a better understanding of food so that you can actually track these things into your macros, or at least guesstimate your way to understand what you're eating, so that way you're not kind of going off the walls, okay? This also accounts for alcohol too, okay? If you know that it's, one of your favorite drinks is 200 calories worth, you can take 200 calories worth of your carbohydrates, which is very easy to do, and that will ultimately just make it easier for you to include those things into your diet without feeling super deprived, okay? Now, the second thing that I wish that I personally knew when it came to tracking macros is that it's really not as hard as everyone makes it out to be, okay? A lot of times we associate tracking calories and macros with someone who has an eating disorder, which are 2 totally different things, okay? This is like saying that someone who tracks their finances, okay, is someone who is like mentally just like so OCD that they can't have any fun, right? It's not as simple as that, right? We want to track our finances so that we have a better understanding of what's coming in and out. It works the same exact way with your body. So it's really not as easy as a lot of people make it out to be. And just to give you a little bit of a hack that you can do to make this much easier for yourself is that if you go ahead and you try and track your calories and macros throughout the day, and you're basically just, you eat something and then you track it, you eat something and then you track it, you eat something and then you track it, you're going to find that at the end of the day, it's very hard to hit your numbers, okay? It's very hard for you to stay on track because you've already eaten all the food. There's nothing that you can do to go back in time and change that now, right? So one of the biggest things that I tell all of my clients to do inside of our Built Bodies training program is that I actually tell them to pre-track their meals, okay? This means that when you go out to the grocery store or you know that you're going to be going out to eat dinner one night or something like that, you're going to go out to get fast food one day, you're actually pre-tracking that food ahead of time so that you know that you're not going to be overdoing it on your goals. And I'll give you an example, okay? Tomorrow when I wake up in my house, I'm going to go ahead and have the same breakfast that I've always had, so I'm going to pre-track my breakfast, and then I might decide to go to Chipotle. I will go look up Chipotle's menu on MyFitnessPal or our tracking app that our clients use, and we're actually just going to pre-track exactly what I get in that bowl. Then by tracking just those first two meals, I'm going to see, okay, how many calories do I have for the rest of the day that I'm going to be able to look at and kind of fill that in with like a fun dinner idea, right? Or just a normal dinner idea, okay? And that's ultimately why it's powerful, because it's going to show us how much room we actually have versus already overeating and then being like, damn, I wish I did something to prevent that, right? It makes it a lot easier. So number 3 on the list of things that I wish I knew before tracking macros is that the nutritional value and understanding of food is bar none better than any other eating plan or dieting strategy. And the reason why is because when you track your macros religiously over time, and it teaches you portion control. And that's one of the biggest problems that people have, is that when they go out to dinner, when they're eating out at home, we don't really know what portions are unless you like try and learn on your own, right? And when you track your food for 3, 6 months, 9 months, you're able to totally understand how much 40 grams of protein is worth of meat. How much is 80 grams of carbs worth of rice or potatoes or oatmeal, okay? And these are things that are extremely important because now you're looking at things through a different lens. And this is something that repeatedly gets brought up with my clients, which is awesome because they always tell me as they change their identity from someone who maybe doesn't work out a lot and doesn't worry about what they eat, they're slowly turning into this person who they love the gym, they love being there, they love the wins, they love the identity that they're creating for themselves. And this ultimately ties hand in hand with how they look at food now. So they're able to look at food through a different lens, and this ultimately just makes it much easier for them to stay compliant and on track. Just think about it this way. If you're setting out on a 30-day or 60-day quick fix diet and it's just total bullshit and you know it, think about it. Are you going to be able to sustain that after those 60 days? Most of the times people aren't, and that's because it's too drastic of an approach. But with macros, you don't need to take a drastic approach. And this ties into number 4, which is this is the last diet or eating strategy that you'll ever have to try. And the reason why is because if you choose to eat a little bit on the dirtier side, and I say dirtier with air quotes, you'll be able to have more fast food than the average person, okay? And you can still actually fit those things in. Now, is that the most ideal situation? No. But why this is super important is because not everyone's life is fucking lolly-dally, like happy moments, good schedules, and all that shit, right? We have stuff that comes up. We have different travel plans that get brought up. We get invited to different restaurants. We get invited to different people's houses. We don't want to say no to things, right? Something is going to come up. But The reason why this diet and way of eating is so awesome is because you don't really need to say no. You just need to make plan for things, okay? And that's literally it, okay? And you can eat clean on this, and you can also eat a little bit more on the flexible side, we'll call it, and you can have just 80% more whole foods, and then that 20% can be allocated to different things that you want to try, whether it be that candy bar at the gas station, or whether it be a Chick-fil-A sandwich on your way home from work, or whether it be to grab a drink or something, or have 1 or 2 glasses of wine at the end of your day because it was a stressful day at work. These are things that you can do while tracking macros that other diets don't really let you do, because it's either all or nothing. And that's why I love this, because it's not that at all, okay? You can always come back to eating mostly whole foods, but if you really need to, you can make those changes on the fly if you need, okay? Now, the last thing that I wish I knew, number 5, before tracking macros, is that it's the ultimate way to change your body composition, okay? And what changing your body composition really means is dropping body fat and building muscle at the same time, okay? This is the same reason why when I started my fitness journey, I was around 170-ish pounds, and when I got to 170 pounds almost 8 years later from dieting for my bodybuilding composition, I was night and day different, okay? One had nowhere near like any muscle definition, a little bit on the lankier side, and just a lot of muscle loss just from crazy diets that I've tried. And then after all that time of building muscle, I have a more toned and shredded look. And the only way that you're able to get to a more toned look is by having enough muscle and shedding fat, not burning muscle and burning fat, okay? We'd want to make sure that we preserve muscle too. Now, the reason why this is one of the ultimate ways to change your body composition is because we have specific macro targets. We have specific protein. We have specific carbohydrates for energy. We have specific fats for regulating hormone function and just making sure that everything works properly. And then when it comes to protein, we're having a specific number of protein to not only preserve muscle mass during a diet, but we're all having a specific amount to keep us full. We're having a specific amount to recover from our very hard training sessions, okay? And I'll give you an example. Let's compare this to one of those diets where it's just juices, or you're just having like 1,500 calories a day. There's no regards to macros, and it's just 1,500 calories a day. The reason why this works a little bit less efficiently if you're just having calories and just taking out entire food groups is because this creates a very big gap in what's called a calorie deficit, okay? So everyone burns a certain number of calories per day, and if we eat below that number, we're in a calorie deficit. And sometimes when people try these crazy diets, what ends up happening is that they actually eat too little, and so much so that they burn more muscle mass in the process. They lose fat, yes, but they also lose a lot of weight and muscle, so that honestly makes it harder for them to look toned, and they lose muscle, and it creates more of a flabby look. Yes, you can drop 20 pounds, but are you really going to be happy 20 pounds down when you look at yourself in the mirror and it's not what you want? You know, you want your muscles to pop more, right? You want to have a little bit of vascularity there, right? You want to have those muscles look full, okay? We want them to, kind of resemble that maybe leaner model look, okay? Or if you're not there yet and you don't want to even, go to that route, it's just literally about looking strong, okay? And you're not going to do that by eating like a middle school, like teenage girl, okay? That's how many calories that one of a teenage girl needs, and we're not going to get there like that. So that's why it's very important to understand macros, because it's not going to come from results are not going to come just from cutting calories, okay? We need to make sure that not only are we having a certain number of calories, but we're having the macronutrients that our body needs to really deliver an awesome result in terms of strength in the gym, in terms of changes in a body composition perspective, as well as giving us the flexibility to be able to sustain this long term. I just had a person ask me the other day, how have you consistently gotten bigger since college? And I told him, I said, it's easy. I just never fall off, right? Does that mean that I eat healthy all the time? No, okay? Just last night I had gelato with my family because I'm a normal human being, right? And then the couple of days after that, I had gelato again. So my secret really is that I just don't fall off, okay? And he's had times in his own fitness journey where he's gone balls to the walls eating only clean foods, and then other times where he's just not tracked at all, right? And it's just much better for your results to never need a reason to fall off by following something that's just way too hard to stick to. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you noticed that the audio quality is just a little bit off, I apologize about that. I am traveling right now, so I'm recording this on my computer, but thank you so much for staying loyal and watching the podcast. And if you need help with online fitness coaching, or you want to get your own set of macros so that you can fully change your body composition and drop belly fat, but also retain that muscle so that you can feel more confident, look good on the beach this summer, as well as have more energy throughout the day, then you can click the application link below to apply. We are already looking to fill roster spots in June. So it's May 22nd when this podcast is going to be going live, and we're looking to fill roster spots up for the beginning of June. So if you have any questions or concerns, fill out the application, apply, and reach out to me on my social medias, and I'll talk to you then. Have a good rest of your day, and thank you guys so much for listening to the Built Bodies podcast. Bye.